Happening, everyone. Today is going to be a banger. I mentioned this a couple of days ago that I had a great lineup this week. Yesterday, I think it's yesterday, guys. I don't know. I've been doing streams every day, just about. I think yesterday I did the PulseChain 101. Went through a lot of that. Weird enough, you couldn't see MetaMask on the thing. So I went back and I was clipping. I was like, oh, okay, they can't see MetaMask on this. Weird how StreamYard didn't show that. Funny enough, that's okay. I think the gist was gotten for a lot of it. So I tried to. Just trying to create a little bit of content like that just because I really haven't did it before. I don't do a lot of pre-made videos. You just do live stream clips, of course. But I want to get a little bit of information like that for new people who are coming in. Maybe they seen a documentary. Maybe they got interested in PulseChain and they came on over. Fun times to join this new thriving ecosystem, let me tell you. Let me say hi to the chat real quick before we bring the two gentlemen in. Fast Abdul, tell me your secrets. They will be probably at least non-zero number of secrets told today. You never know. Could be. We're not sure, but we hope to bring you some good information. I'll say that. Neil for D-Share, it's good to see you, man. He's definitely not here. And yeah, I hope to have you on the show and everything's going over there in the Tetraland. Red Squirrel, what's happening, man? Good to see you. Always good. Is this the VPN support channel? Sir, this is Wendy's. You should back up, turn around, and go to the NordVPN office. It's right beside Comcast. They can help you out. Max the X. It's a VPN jokes. There's a lot of VPN jokes happening. Not going to address it right now. Not going to address it. Godfather J6. Good to see you, man. Glad you're here. Vets in Crypto. Crypty Girl's here. What's happening, Crypty Girl? Good to see you as well. We got Logie. We got Marco. What's up, Marco? Thank Expo. Well, I don't know. Maybe we'll talk about it later. But normally those kind of questions are very hard to predict, almost impossible, you might say. So we'll maybe remind me later, and I'll ask the guests to see if they want to get into it. Oswald, Randy, how's it going, everyone? Oh gosh, Chad Donnerswan's just entered. We're gonna bring the guests in on Chad Donnerswan's. We'll get to everyone else in a moment. Without further ado, welcome back to the show. I think the third or fourth time Gary's been here. Funding Jim, aka Gary, what's happening, man?
Living La Vida Loca.
Living La Vida Loca. That's what we want to hear. There's nothing going wrong in the universe right now. Nothing is wrong. Everything is right. That's what you're telling me?
It's cosmic light is shining upon us all.
We've all got the karma of saints and angels. Yes, that's what I like to hear. Good to see you. Good to see you back. I know it's been, I think the last time you were on, it was either open mic or did I have you and Dixon on for HEX birthday? I feel like that was a long time ago.
Dixon, I like Dixon's content a lot. I know he stepped away from Twitter for a while, focus on other things. We all get stressed or anxious about this crypto thing that we're all part of. And sometimes I feel the same way. So I appreciate Dixon. I appreciate, again, Jesse's going to come on. I haven't been on stream with him in a while. But, I really do like these forward-thinking, intellectual, thoughtful, builders of community, builders of product. So, yeah, I'm really happy about the show today.
Yeah, for sure. Well, if you didn't know, I build validator scripts. I'll say that. I build smart contracts.
I'm about to reach out to you. You're going to help me with a few things. Yeah.
Can do. DMs are open, man. Well, great segue for Jesse here. Welcome back, Jesse. It's been a while for you as well, sir. How's it going?
Hey, yo. Doing great.
Just another day in Hexaco,
Just another day.
I like this PFP because it looks like he's tears in the beer. What is that cup of? Is that vodka? What's in the glass?
No, so I made that picture back when we were all waiting for PulseChain forever. It's like some guy sitting in a restaurant. It's kind of my face there, just sitting there waiting.
Just watching the ice cubes melt.
I have a meme guy. He made so many memes for the waiting. I can't use them anymore because they're all like waiting on PulseChain. It's got the guy waiting like the 3 stages of waiting. So many good memes, and then it launched, and then they all went away. So dang it. Yeah, we are happy the PulseChain launched, right? Are we? Yeah. Let's start off with that. Funny enough, Gary, are you happy the PulseChain launched? I'm going to leave that open-ended.
That it is launched. That's what we've been waiting on. We've been talking about that for many years, since 21, right? So 2023, May 12th, software went live. I'm happy about the things that you do as far as validator scripts. I'm happy about some of the education that's been put out there from Gamma Dev Ops. I think he changed his name on his Substack, but Gamma Dev. I like a lot of the education that even people, talk about things like Nakamoto coefficients and decentralization and all these narrative, which are just basically vocabulary buzzwords, incentivizing people to hold, psychologically incentivizing people to hold, right? So I like that PulseChain is live. It's not my product. I didn't build it. I'm not involved with any of the software development. I'm not technical in any way. So on the outside, as a participant, I'm just glad that it's alive. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah, it's been fun. We've had some ups and downs. We're working on 4 months. It's been 3.5 or so right now, and they've been the V1 and V2, the burn and earn, I affectionately call them. Maybe we'll have a V3 called Twerk coming up. Never know. We're gonna get into that as well. And
coin, is that already listed? Is it the new meme coin out there?
I'm sure there's a coin named that. If you look it up on all the gate-kept coin market sites, it's gosh.
Well, we're not going to do sharding, right? We'll never have to scale for sharding. We'll simply Twerk. We're going to change
simply Twerk. That's the algorithm, the Twerk algorithm, like that. But yeah, it's PulseX, PulseChain. HEX still 100% uptime smart contract. There was a little bit on the website wasn't quite working at some point too. I know it's got some upgrades as well. But yeah, recently it's been the PulseX news coming out. I just woke up to Twitter this morning. I think I saw a video. Our friend Somi, or either saw him first, and then I talked to Jesse about it, and then saw Dipcatcher was going after that rabbit hole as well. So yeah, Jesse, you want to start with that? Just take us into what I'll put up the tweet as well, a couple tweets, and go through them. But what exactly happened going on with PulseX right now?
Well, Tanto Nami did some research into the code side of things, and so I'll echo some of what he came up with, but I'll start with saying what's going on. Well, there were reports that PulseX, no buy and burns were being conducted. So the first place I went was straight to K4K's Twitter, and I noticed, oh, he's silent. Where'd he go? And I was like, oh, that's odd. And not that he had anything to do with this, of course, but it's just funny. And then, yeah, sure enough, the buy and burn contracts weren't being called at all. So I made a tweet about that. Tanto dug into that, and he said, they had basically admin turned off the buy and burn. There were some backdoor discussions with at least one dev in the know who was not entirely in the know, but he had some suspicions that perhaps an upgrade was necessary. Maybe to protect everybody or just to make the protocol a little bit safer. And that's also what Tanto found. So Tanto went on to testnet. He found that there was an upgraded contract running on testnet. And the difference between the two contracts was the one that was on mainnet that was turned off was not verifying that LP tokens were legitimate. The one on testnet there's like an extra verification check to make sure that LP tokens are legitimate. So potentially, I have no idea. Potentially, there could have been like a little attack vector there, perhaps, if somebody had, minted a bunch of bogus LP tokens, maybe, and done something to the buy and burn. I have no idea. Nonetheless, it doesn't appear to be catastrophic. It looks like it's running great with the upgrade on testnet. I imagine at some point in the next week or so, somebody will push that update to mainnet, and buy and burn will start back up again, and everyone will forget that it ever happened.
Tends to happen when we have these types of things. Even the V1, V2, it's kind of like, okay, that's just a thing. I think Richard sort of spun it in the marketing as a person would do. Oh, you can either donate your funds or you can keep them and in a market, let the market decide where to go for farming and where to go for LP and stuff. But I haven't looked at this code. I'm just looking at it right now. It looks like if the one on the left is the original and one on the right is the change, which it could be backwards, but this looks like it's going from private to public. And I mean, just dev speaking, it's like private means you're not gonna be able to call it, and public means you can call it after that. So maybe it's backwards or something like that. But do you know of anything? Because I know Dipcatcher talked about it changed, buy and burn no longer activated. So, but you also mentioned that there could have been some minting or otherwise LP tokens. But it sounds like, at least at first glance, I thought, oh, this was just buy and burn just wasn't buying and burning for the last few days. Or did you have a different thought on it?
Well, it wasn't. Because it was no longer publicly callable. Does that make sense? Like that contract was like turned off in relation to the rest of the PulseX.
So is that active on the website itself, as far as when people try to do a buy and burn and they try to earn anything, or is it so that there's no yield?
So anybody who attempted it, an error would come across their screen that said something like slippage too high. It was some arbitrary message giving an error.
Yeah, so it looks like it was private. So if the change is going from left to right, like the right being the new one, private, it was private, so it wasn't callable, and then it was turned back to public again. And I guess this is the newer version that's being tested right now. Wrote out a new buy and burn contract on testnet. Yeah, okay. Interesting.
I'm just, again, I don't want to get too far in the weeds unless you're choosing to be really technical. V1, V2, V1 had very high buy and burn because the LP providers don't actually earn. And there's only like 7 pairs, I think, on V1, something along those lines. Maybe, and then V2 seems like it's the one that's more active with people actually, looking to provide liquidity for an earn rate, right? For their percentage. I don't understand how those things can still function if it's hard coded that 29%, 0.29% is a fee. How does it still function when the buy and burn contract isn't called? Does that make sense? I don't know.
I assume it just couldn't be called when they tried to call it.
You can still execute a trade, but what happens to the part of the contract that says there's a fee? Is it a free trade?
I have no idea.
I'm not sure either. I think it just fails. Something just fails. It keeps going, but it fails on that part.
Yeah, if you can trade, if you can trade, and the contract is turned off as far as the buy and burn feature, LPs would still earn their percentage, but some percentage of the trade goes somewhere, or the trade couldn't occur at all. Correct?
I'm not sure on this particular piece of code. That's why I haven't looked at the code. I'm just looking at the change and figuring out that maybe it just couldn't be called. If it wasn't public, it couldn't be called. Whatever is calling it, maybe the call failed or otherwise. And it just, everything else went through except the burning part. Just whole pure speculation. Look at this diff in the code.
I don't know how to read code, but maybe it still collected all the fee and they're just all sitting there like waiting to be called, but they can't be because it was turned off. I have no idea.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, again, I remember this being addressed before that Richard had made streams, years ago about a buy and burn function being automatic. And then it was basically resolved that automatic wasn't possible. Like every time that an individual chooses to make a trade, that the follow-on contract couldn't be executed, or maybe there was a legal reason why that couldn't be done. So then this page on the PulseX DEX to be able to look and see if there's opportunity to do the public call. And if you did the public call, then you would have some kind of reward for basically executing the call, paying the PLS gas or the Ethereum gas if it was Ethereum. So on an Ethereum kind of DEX. So yeah, I'm just curious about how that functions. And again, this is the hard thing about being muzzled or choosing to disengage from the community for whatever reasons, is we don't actually have a spokesperson. Brett Tepp responds sometimes with what he can feel comfortable to release. And he'll, like he did on this tweet on the 27th. And, I like his personality. He's very responsive. He's inside the PulseChain dev Telegram rooms, active, addressing, different issues. He just addressed something for me just recently. So it's great to have access to, one of the lead devs, if not the lead dev of the team. Same thing with Gamma DevOps, met him in person, great guy, personality type, and can explain things ad nauseum that I just will never be able to grasp. So I like the technical people, but really the culture and the, if you want to call it, trust factor of the brand comes down to Richard Hart. And Richard Hart is at the moment muzzled, either by his own choice or by advisement. So like, what does this all mean? Don't fucking know. You want to look at the chart and say, is the chart going to go up, go down? That's what most people are looking at in general in crypto. Is my bag going to pump or is it going to fall? Don't know. Like, it's the ambiguity of the marketplace that's shown on the chart. So I would like to have some spokesperson, and all we can do is basically speculate. I just spent basically an hour before this stream in one of the Twitter spaces. It's notables. Phygital, I like Phygital a lot. He talks a lot about meme coins and tokens and NFTs and things like that. He's very active in the startup space. He's similar to Mario as far as like his content and things like that. I like that those guys are paying attention to the SEC case. I like that they're paying attention to what is PulseChain and PulseX doing. I like that, right? Even though there's like this ambiguity in the marketplace and in the chart. Because we don't have the spokesperson, we don't have the cultural norm of having Richard available, so more of that would be helpful instead of, I don't know if there's going to be a PulseX V2B. Like I think Tantanomi made a tweet saying something like, maybe there'll be a PulseX V2B.
Yeah, that's the twerk one, man. That's the twerk one.
Yeah.
I posted it here somewhere. Where's my tweet?
Like,
there we go. There we go.
When it comes to like who can be a spokesperson. I like that Jesse's on the stream. I like that KDP puts comments out there. I'm going to be visiting, Buck in Australia and other founders in Australia very soon, because they're the ones that are 30 or so founders. From what I understand, I'm not in the room that you guys talk regularly, but like they need clarity too. They need clarity in what is the code doing. They need security in, is the chain secure itself? Is this a DEX issue? And when something comes along that is, you want to call it a bug, you want to call it design, you want to call it 4D chess, the ambiguity is what unnerves people. It does it in the stock market. It does it in the real estate market. It does it in every marketplace. So that's where we have to look at.
Yeah. One reason I latched onto this so quickly was, Earn Protocol is going to be using PulseX as collateral, right, for a stablecoin. So we kind of needed to know, like, right away, is there a problem with PulseX itself? Might there be a new token launched, all the contracts launched fresh? What does this look like? And then what if this had happened after we had launched, right? So we had to think through all these different things. And it was a bit of like, oh shit, let's figure out what's actually going on here. Now, ultimately, it isn't a huge deal. It's like a little upgrade, a little safety upgrade for PulseX, it appears. But there's another side to this too. Clearly, there are admin keys, right? So how do we all feel about keys for various protocols on chain where entities can just turn off things and turn things off at will? What do you all think?
That's the hard thing is I remember, and it's always been known that Ethereum has upgrades. It's always been, I think even when I came into crypto in 2017, I was under the illusion that Bitcoin was immutable, that it couldn't be changed, that, it was this digital version of gold and it had, properties that were never going to change because it's decentralized and all the narratives around Bitcoin. And then I sat through the hash fights or whatever it was, where I don't think it was SegWit, maybe it was SegWit, when they were saying, hey, let's do an upgrade. This is the reasoning. This is why Bitcoin has core developers that can actually, enact code changes. Ethereum has, from my learning curve, the same sort of thing. And from even evidenced on the front end of the contracts that Uniswap has, V1 was immutable as far as I understand, and it couldn't change. That's why a V2 existed. I mean, it was launched, and then there was a migration of funds on Uniswap. That's why, a V3 in further development and computer code made those things possible. So admin key, meaning can the code itself be changed? Can the contract address be different, this month versus next month? I think that's always going to be there. Like whether it's publicly declared or not, there's a question about like when I go to the website domain, am I phished? Is that domain still the same source code? Even the bitcoin.org website was quote unquote hacked, right? And had different stuff up there. And that could have been malicious, or often those types of hacks are malicious. So is it an admin key or not? It's a risk vector. Like there's always going to be a risk vector. I think even Richard made a stream in the past before any of this about like, you don't know who's in between your keyboard and your hardware. You don't, you might use a VPN and that you have protection because you're using a VPN, but there's so many risk vectors along the line. Hackathons make a point of saying this is impossible to access, and yet almost every hackathon they do. So, what is the risk vector of an admin key? Eric Wall likes to say that having 90% of the supply available to whether it's a single address, single entity, single person, legal team, blind trust, is that a risk vector? Because majority of the supply can be in decision, released into the market or whatever. We don't seem to have a problem when some rich guy that owns Tesla and SpaceX buys a lot of cryptocurrency. We don't have a problem with the magic carpet ride, right? We don't have a problem with that. Going on Saturday Night Live and talking about something that they like and then actually putting financial energy to it. We don't seem to have a problem with that. But we do have a problem with centralization of here's a risk vector of the admin key, the risk vector of 90% is owned by a central authority, the risk vector of, this domain, may go through 2 years of functioning fine, and then someone forgets to pay the bill, and now it goes to public auction. Like there's risk in all of these things, no matter what people say.
I think just your point about, Elon and, just every other company that's got centralization research talked about this ad nauseum too. It's like, why are we comfortable with that? Why are investors comfortable with that? Why are they billion-dollar companies? They believe the incentives are aligned for things not to go poorly, right? Like they believe they're in it to win it. And that's, a lot of people who believe in HEX and don't have a problem with the OA or any of the things that can be considered less decentralized than usual. They're okay with that because they believe incentives are aligned. And I mean, that's what I think of when I think of that as well. But just on PulseX and centralization, admin keys, trustlessness, I think it's all on a spectrum. I think that I would value decentralization and trustlessness more with PulseChain, but with PulseX, I'm like, okay, it's a DEX. I know there's going to be decisions that need to be made. Whether would I like them to be made by the DAO? Sure, one day, hopefully that'd be nice. But if they're not made by the DAO, and it's you kind of got to believe people's incentives are aligned to make what you believe in keep going well in one way or another, whether it's price or network or growth or adoption or otherwise. So I don't know. I don't have with DEXs. I'm kind of like, I don't treat decentralization trustlessness as absolutes. Definitely on a spectrum, but I would put more pressure on L1s as far as that goes. And we saw all the Genesis validators exit. We saw all 4,096. They're gone now. Up to you guys. Run the network, right? Community, go do it. So with this,
I mean, again, those can be called, again, it all goes to marketing. It's like, why do an audit? Richard says this before. Why do an audit? The only reason to do an audit is for marketing, really, right? Because you can get an audit that says this is a flaw in your code, and it's up to you if you're going to improve and change the code and take away that risk vector. Until people actually, as developers, are going through line by line, symbol by symbol, and deciding, oh no, look, this is actually my own audit. and my own audit catches this risk, right? Part of it's marketing. Like I would have loved, and I'll say this, I've said this publicly in the past, I would have loved for PulseX to be fucking audited. Why wasn't it audited? Why are we having these issues, right? So like you can see the reflection of the sentiment in the chart. You know, you can see the reflection of the sentiment in the chart, regardless of it's a bear market, regardless of absence of the founder's commentary. You can see the reflection of trust, right, in the execution. So it's the same sort of thing. Like these can be patched, repaired. They can be explained away to some degree, but there's going to be people that say, "Hey, I'm out. Like this is not for me. I'm going to go somewhere else and go to a different product pitch." And those same products can have and will have similar risk vectors. So don't think that it's one off. These are all risks in these concepts. In my view.
Good.
Can you comment? Do you mind to comment? And again, I want to. I do have some questions, and one of my questions, I think that Jesse probably is one of the better commentators. I think he's very eloquent when he explains things, and I really appreciate his thoughtfulness. So the AMM ran before the DEX was available for people to contribute their own PRC20, become an LP, play the speculation game that we saw play out, 3 months ago, and to some degree now still. The AMM basically harvested PRC20s from all of the liquidity provided on different DEXs, from what I understand, after the fork, right? The fork versions of that LP. Now, does the AMM is that address only some small percentage of that liquidity was placed into the DEX? Is it still held back in those addresses? Like, are all of the Pepe coins that were copied, they weren't provided by the AMM address into the DEX to make that very liquid? Is that correct? Is that basically a choice by an admin key?
Really good question, and I haven't looked. I remember discussions beforehand where like should all of the liquidity just be migrated over, purchased from the other DEXs, so to speak, and then just redeployed with fresh pulse into PulseX all in one shot, or should it be scaled in over time? And I believe the direction that a lot of the people can thought experimenting together and presenting ideas to Richard was scale it in over time. Is that happening? I have no idea. Imagine the undertaking it would take to do that, right? To be able to write that in code would be ridiculous. We're talking about thousands and thousands of different tokens. You can't possibly manually do it. One guy sit there on MetaMask and deploy liquidity for hours upon hours daily. So I don't know. Well,
the hard thing is, again, the things that one has said versus the actual what is on chain. And what I have heard for many years is that PulseX would be the most liquid DEX. And one of its value propositions as a DEX, when people can fork and create DEXs on the chain, different versions are obviously live now, right? So and we need those also for oracles, and there's all kinds of reasons to have more than one single DEX. And the narrative that I heard for quite some time was most liquid DEX, because the AMM would have harvested and would have bought up the liquidity, right? But from what I believe, I don't believe that liquidity is actually in the DEX. Otherwise, you wouldn't see the slippage of some of these PRC20s that you do, right? 2% of the PLS that was minted, 2 to 3% from what I remember K4K saying, was minted for the purpose of buying up PRC20s, right? From the, by the AMM bot. But some entity, from what I'm guessing, because that LP is not inside the DEX itself, if I'm looking for, I see a lot of buzz over the past month or so about PDI or Atropa or these other things that Dipcatcher and others make commentary about, right? They say, hey, this is what's going on. This is, even 0x Coast with his CST token, right? The narrative is that, oh, this is going to be a stable coin that you can buy, but you can, through their KYC process and basically mint, very similar to how TUSD functioned. But then I see follow-up that says, you're still going to have price movement, a lot of fluctuation until there's a lot of liquidity for CST. And so is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing when it comes to the PRC20s that were harvested by the AMM? And that ambiguity really why you PulseChain and PulseX have languished is because we do not have those statements.
Yeah, so it's actually good for some people, not so good for others. But it's just how stablecoins work. So the blockchain itself, y'all, listeners, the blockchain doesn't know, the DEX doesn't know that something is supposed to be a stablecoin versus a meme coin. So when you have something, whether it's CST or it's PXDC or USDL or USDC or DAI or anything, it's simply a ratio traded on a DEX against a different coin. So if somebody was to dump a very low liquid DAI, okay, if there's a DAI pool, again, whether it's PDAI or regular DAI, if there's a pool and it's DAI something paired to something else, and there's only a couple 100,000 or maybe the exit liquidity side, the thing it's paired to only has a couple $100,000 worth of exit liquidity on that side. If somebody dumps or buys, the price is going to move significantly because, again, the chain doesn't realize the difference. Now, what distinguishes a real stable coin from from something that's not a stable coin, or maybe not a stable coin anymore, is how fast and what are the incentives for other people to notice those slippage swings, those swings in price, come in behind those buys and peg it right back to $1. And the way that works with something like Coast would be if you find the Coast stable dollar at 90 cents on PulseX, you're like, oh, that's a low liquidity pool. But it's 90 cents, and I'm looking at their website, and as long as I have an account over there, I can redeem each one of these for $1 worth of fiat. Okay. Well, you would say, oh, okay, let me go create an account. Let me buy some of these. You buy them. You just repegged it back to $1. You send those off to the platform, and you just made some money, right? And that's how DAI works with the Maker protocol. It's how liquidity works with LUSD. It's how USDC works when you redeem back to Circle. So that's pretty much how stablecoins work.
And can you address the similar thing as far as, like, you just talked about stablecoins that are linked to a bank account, KYC, exit, or enter ramp? Can you comment the same way about the liquidity for algorithmics, whether it's liquid loans, which is supposed to launch before too long? Your product also of the Power City team. Can you comment about algorithmic? Is that the same similar mechanism, basically, that you can, because you can redeem it for underlying PLSX or underlying PLS, that's basically your ARB opportunity, correct?
Correct. So instead of $1 worth of fiat, what you can redeem for in liquid loans or an earn protocol instead is $1 worth of either Pulse or $1 worth of PulseX. Okay, so instead of fiat, so you see that PXDC is trading at 90 cents someday. You say, oh, wow, no KYC. This is completely trustless. It's on chain. I'm looking at this protocol over here, earn.powercity.io. I see 90 cent stable coin on PulseX or on FUX protocol. Hey, let me buy some of that. Jump right on over to earn.powercity.io, click redeem, and bam, you have $1 worth of PulseX in your wallet. And it just burned that stable coin that you had paid far less for.
Interesting. I see that you got it on screen, or you did RHMax for a while, about the liquidity that's on PulseX, the DEX. And I remember that number being different. You know, obviously you can see if you go to the left of the chart, as high as $500 million. That's pretty impressive. Now that there is less liquidity, even though the price of example of PLS, I just looked, it's like 0.39 as far as DI ratio. When there's less liquidity, then buys can push the price higher, faster. When there's less liquidity, sells can push the price lower, faster. So can you comment about like high liquidity versus low liquidity when it goes to the speculation of a bull market, the speculation of SEC case resolve, you know, first commentary in November, you know, letter that has to happen 7 days before Richard's, you know, telephone conference. Like, can you comment about specifically liquidity when it's there versus it's not on people's perception of ROI, like, you know, speculative energy?
Well, low liquidity will always push things around way faster. So I have this little picture I like to paint in people's head to really demonstrate and hammer that home. If you had a super low liquidity pool, and let's just say it was 10 random tokens paired to 10 USDC, okay? And you decided that you wanted to buy one of those USDC, all right? Or excuse me, you wanted to buy one of those tokens. You would deposit the price is $1 a piece, by the way, because you've got 10 and 10 and there's 10 USDC in there. But you would essentially deposit 1 USDC and you would remove from that pool 1 token. You just paid $1 for that token, but you just moved the price significantly. Okay, so in layman's terms, that's kind of what happens. You just removed a token, so there's 9 tokens in the pool that are valued at $11. Okay, so the price now is $1.22. You just push the price to $1.22. It's 11 divided by 9. Okay, so you say, well, I actually wanted to buy 2 of them, right? So the second coin you would have to pay $1.22 for, and the third coin you would have to pay, I don't know, $1, way more for. And by the time you get to the fourth coin, you're already paying $2 a piece for them. And if you tried to buy the whole pool, you could actually shove the price up to like hundreds of dollars. Okay, even though it only started with 10 USDC in there. All right, so that's the effects of low liquidity are very, very drastic when you look at it like that. Now, you could start a coin that costs $1 and put $1 million, you know, 1 million USDC on one side and 1 million tokens on the other. And you say to yourself, well, I only want 1 single token. Well, you would still have to put in $1. But what did you just move the price to? You didn't really move it barely at all, right? Because now there's 999,999 tokens in there. And the valuation of those is 1,000,001 USDC. You just moved the price 0.00000 whatever by buying 1 single token, right? So small pools, price moves a lot up and down. Really big pools, price barely moves at all.
So what, you know, that basically becomes the decision of the liquidity providers about when they're going to add liquidity and put capital at risk. Like if they have a token that was worth, you know, 10,000th of a penny, and then they wait to become an LP, or they wait basically to even try to exit some of that value add. That's the game, really, is the LP game, because you want a lot of liquidity when you're going to sell, but you don't want a lot of liquidity when it goes to the marketing of a perception of a price up. You know, So Richard says, or other people say, you know, volatility is the price you pay for the highest performing asset, right? The highest ROI. That volatility is the price you pay for, you know, 1000x is volatility, because you can shoot up to that price through whether you want to call it fat finger or intention to bring, you know, to put that at risk, right? Is the market sentiment of people that hold token, is it that they see the price go up and they say, hey, it's going to go up more, therefore I'm not going to sell? Or I have a smart contract and I'm not liquid for 6 more months. You know, like you have some kind of psychological hold or financial penalty, if you want to call it that, of a contract. So what are your speculations when it goes to the design of PLS as a L1 to incentivize people to hold long enough for price to actually climb and become liquid the way that Ethereum and Bitcoin have? If you look at aggregators on Ethereum and you say, I want to sell, you know, $100 million worth of Ethereum, you're still going to move the price because there isn't that much liquidity of even Ethereum on all the different dexes. If you're looking at a central exchange, you know, they might be selling from their own inventory on a big buy or big sell, or you probably would do better on an OTC if you know someone or an entity willing to do an OTC. Can you make commentary about like the 1 year, 2 year, 3 year strategy when it comes to liquidity access? Like, can someone with $1 million in today's token value exit $100 million in 2 years, 3 years?
Well, liquidity providing is there's almost like 3 different types of liquidity providers. All right. You've got guys who are trying to preserve capital. So they'll deploy liquidity when the markets aren't really doing anything, but there's still trading volume back and forth. And they'll deploy liquidity knowing that they're just going to collect trading fees. Or they'll pair stable coins together, knowing that no matter which one they're left with, it's always going to be redeemable for $1 somewhere. So they just park their money there and collect fees. All right, or other incentives as well. So you've got that type, the type who are trying to preserve capital. They won't typically like huge giant price swings. Okay, now you get another type who's just a whale who can't sell without pushing the price down on himself. And maybe there aren't any good limit order options, you know, on his favorite token or coin or whatever. So he says, well, I believe that the markets are going to go up, but instead of selling, let me just deploy some liquidity, put these other coins of mine at risk by doing that. But if it goes the way I think, people will just buy into the thing I'm trying to sell, and I'll be left with more of the other thing. So he's essentially selling if the market goes the direction he wants without actually having to dump the price down on everyone else. So that's a technique. That technique gets really intricate on things like Uniswap v3, because you can like place tokens in different ranges and stuff and kind of protect yourself to some degree. On a straight regular Uniswap fork or pancake swap fork, it's not quite that simple. It's just a gambling game. Do you believe the markets are going to go up or down? Well, then there's another type, and that's a type who just uses various market tactics to try and attempt to move a price where he wants it to go for whatever reason. So you can thin or thicken liquidity at different times to encourage faster run-ups in price at times that you think the markets are bullish.
Speaking of that too, unless Gary, you got any follow-up question on that? Otherwise, it's going to talk about CSS staking.
I thought we can move to a different topic if you want to shift gears.
No, good questions, man. Great ones. And then we'll get some questions in the chat as well. I don't think we're going to get many today because we're going to probably go for a little bit over at the hour mark. But I wanted to ask Jesse and Founding Jim too about single-sided staking and their thoughts just in general. I saw you made the tweet, Jesse, and I've heard back and forth. Oh, some people don't want it to happen. You know, it's kind of not quite HEX VHEX type of almost a divisiveness. But it's definitely one of those things, and people have strong opinions one way or another. Usually I'm kind of like, I never look forward to it really in the first place, but it'd be nice if we had it. That's kind of my thing. But yeah, what do you think? You want to expand a little bit on this tweet, just your thoughts on single-sided staking for PulseX or anything else that comes out, and why it seems like you may see some pros with it.
Yeah. So you look at any major DeFi protocol, whether it's Pancake or Liquidity or Maker or Balancer, Curve, Convex, a number of different places. The whole idea is there's some token that does more than just sit in people's wallets, right? So imagine if PulseX, cool, it's got a buy and burn. That's great. But what else does it do besides sit in people's wallets? Whether they're a liquidity provider, I guess people can deploy liquidity. Well, there's always that, right? And then other people, all they have to do is buy and sell it. But what is there to do with it? Nothing, right? So what these other DeFi protocols have all done is they said, well, how do we incentivize people not to sell this thing? Because people get impatient. People like to dump things the moment that they feel they'll get more for it today than tomorrow. How do we encourage people to just hold and they at least get something out of holding? And that's where things like single-sided staking come along, where the idea of, well, what if I lock these things up, not for a time lock, but if I can just lock these things while I'm locked, I can earn these other tokens that other teams have put up for free, right? So there's always memes, there's always DeFi protocols, there's surprisingly there's actually a ton of telegrams of teams coming to PulseChain. I can't say that they're not, majority rugs, but there's a number of them that are legitimate, and they just don't have good exposure. So if those teams, let's say their distribution model was, well, we want to distribute to people who are staking and not selling their PulseX, for example. Now, the people who would have otherwise only had the option to sell their PulseX, now they're quite happy just locking it up, not selling it, which makes the price go up easier, but they get these other things for free, and they're welcome to hold on to those for speculation, or they're welcome to swap those out and try and acquire more PulseX so they can get bigger rewards, or whatever they want to do. It's just a mechanism for locking up the thing that you don't want people to sell.
So why would people form an opinion of liking or wanting single-sided staking versus not? It's just people just want something to do with their coins right now, and we don't, Power City's not out, or otherwise to do things with third party, or why do you think people are so excited about it? Or is it just a meme coin, or just earning new coins, yield in general?
Well,
the only reason I'll give an opinion. My opinion is the only reason people reverse that statement is because Richard said something that was contrary to what he said in the past. He made a tweet, and his tweet said something like, I don't understand why I would pay someone to hold the token. Like, why would I pay them? And it seems like giving away free money. So his tweet was out of the blue, unexpected, counter to a narrative that had been said for many years. And it's very similar to, in my opinion, saying this is going to be a dividend. This is going to be a cash flow to holding real estate. This is going to be the fruit that comes from the orchard. And then basically saying that's a dumb idea. People have pensions. People put into 401ks. People lock up money all the time. There's a design of a single-sided staking, which is called HEX, and it's built into the protocol that has an earning based of more HEX on HEX return for locking up in time and contract. So the only people that I think that I see on Twitter that say it's a bad idea are people that are echoing the same thing, I don't think with thoughtfulness, simply because Richard had made a tweet along those lines. That's my view.
I think what I was thinking was it was in testnet, the previous one, but then I mean there were some clips where I've heard Richard talk about it. I don't know. I even clipped one where he said probably not, but also if it's on testnet, it kind of sets. We shouldn't not have those expectations, should we? No expectations, but it certainly seemed like it was going that direction. That like you said, all of a sudden.
Well, and another thing is, again, so whether you like him or whether you don't, let's just use B-Roots. I'm friends with B-Roots. I like B-Roots. I like his commentary. I like his show. Do I speculate on things that are talked about on his show? I do not. So it's not like I have bias. I just like the guy, and I think that the guy makes some statements that are probably more transparent than other people's statements. And if I were to speculate speculation about why a single-sided staking pivot by Richard's tweet, there's two things that come to mind. One is there's some legal thing that I'm not aware of as far as there's a risk vector in generating, right? But probably more likely is Richard didn't like 3 years or 4 years ago, people shilling a coin inside of Telegram rooms that he had. Richard didn't like people coming onto his YouTube channel and commentary and shilling a coin that was not his design. For risk vector reasons, community, vampire attack reasons, whatever you want to call it, right? He just does not like promoting other people's products, right? And that's prerogative. And often that's a very safe prerogative. If you have invested capital, brand into building a community and a consuming audience of your products, why would you want to shill someone else's product? Doesn't make sense, right? So the single-sided staking thing, which was pitched, and I thought part of the design of the PulseX product platform, I think that that's a risk vector, because if you are being paid effectively in other people's coin for staking PLSX, as an example, are you going to talk about PLSX as the best thing since sliced bread? Or are you going to talk about the product that you're likely to dump into the marketplace for a price? Like,
I can see both. I can see both, because you'll need PLSX to do it, but at the same time, a lot of the marketing will go towards the other coin. I mean, I see a few people talk about how wonderful it is to accumulate incentive token, and then I see a lot of people say, "Well, that's a dump forever token." So, like, if your financial reward is promoting the value of incentive token and having the price go up because other people agree that incentive token has value, the same sort of thing can happen about whatever else is proposed by someone that wants to have that audience, right? Have that buying audience. So, like, there's nuance, and certainly I do not know what's in Richard's head. I don't think anybody does but Richard. And the unknowns are what we all make content about. We do not know. I think that the chart reflects, and the actions of the community reflects the ambiguity and the pivot or the rotation, right? So, and then later, I think like a week later, comments, Richard had said something like it's being worked on, like almost as a capitulation statement. That's how I view everything right now. Yeah, that was interesting. I think it's one of the few tweets he ever deleted, and changes his mind when the facts change. He said that before too. Let's move on to OKX, because that's another topic that I think is very interesting. It's affecting some, or could potentially affect. We're going to find out if it affects any PulseChain products or launches or schedules and stuff like that because of infrastructure or otherwise. But Jesse, what's the OKX delisting, has it affected the PulseChain products and launches and timeframes like that?
It's affected the ease and possibly the security of coming into PulseChain. Of course, we still have bridge.pulsechain.com, the official bridge that will make you some wrap tokens. But as far as alternatives, what if you wanted to come from Avalanche, or you wanted to come from Phantom, or you had Bitcoin or something and you wanted to come into PulseChain? Well, all of those services would get routed through OKX and through some Change Now integration with OKX, and then back into our platform, PortalX. That all became possible, where you could be anywhere in all of crypto, and you could easily come straight into PulseChain from wherever you are. But OKX decided, based on their delisting criteria, that the legal challenges with Richard at this time mean that they have to delist. They have to delist for a period, at least for a period of time, right? So, effective on like the 1st of next month or something, Pulse will no longer be available on OKX. Now, when that news came out, the liquidity providers, the community of liquidity providers, started pulling liquidity. So the liquidity is really, really thin over there and super volatile. If you can still use it between now and the end of the month, but if you were to try and come into PulseChain via something like Change Now, you're going to pay possibly double or triple what you would, just coming through the normal bridge. Does that put a damper? Yeah, it certainly does. I mean, there's an argument to be made that we don't need central exchanges, that all we need is this bridge. Well, there's two sides to every coin, right? Because without a means to be able to swap Bitcoin for Pulse, or ETH directly for Pulse, or other tokens directly for Pulse, what we're left with is Richard's bridge, which produces wrap tokens, and anything that comes through that bridge becomes a wrapped thing. And if anything ever happened with that bridge, you have an entire blockchain full of assets that now essentially get screwed, because none of those things become redeemable if people went the other direction. So you do want both. You want that kind of bridge like Richard has, but you also want direct trading like exchanges have. And we now only have one option. Now, there are some other community efforts to build bridges. Of course, Coast has their stablecoin system, which will be launching very soon. That's great. There's some other newer type bridges like Pulse LN, and there's like a privacy bridge out there. Some of these things are either so new, they're untested, they haven't proven themselves quite yet, or they haven't even verified their code. Nobody knows what it says. It could be just one guy with all the keys. There's a number of things you need to be aware of if you're going to use some of these smaller, lesser known bridging platforms. So just be careful out there until another exchange or giant bridging partner picks up Pulse. What the best option is probably just come through Richard's bridge.
Yeah, when I first saw it, I was just thinking about delisting. Okay, what was it? There wasn't a ton of volume going through. All right, but part of me is of course, DEX is I barely use centralized service of any sort. Everything I use, I try my best, unless I have to use. If you on ramp to do something, is no KYC, and it's just the trustless, the peer-to-peer cash system and the DeFi system that has been built around us and that we're building. So when I first heard about the delisting, I thought, okay, well, that's not great, but whatever. But I didn't even think about the implications for products that are using them for different types of conversions or services like that. Is it, and just to clarify for people too, like how, we still bridge coins back and forth using the official PulseChain, bridge.pulsechain.com and stuff, but using other services or things that need to change coins or do bridging type things, are we just waiting for another solution, a decentralized solution, or another centralized partner? Like what is, can you talk about any of the plans with Power City going forward to figure this out?
Yeah, so there's a number of options in the works. Okay, so if you look at something like Rubik, who we work very closely with, they have their front end, we have our front end. It all runs the same code. The engineers over there, when a bridging solution is found, they have to integrate it into Rubik, and they have to create all these different routes to different tokens and stuff, start linking all these smart contracts. And that could take a week, that could take 2 weeks. However, there's so many blockchains out there. We're kind of in our own little bubble here, right? All we see is PulseChain. But there's probably 3 other blockchains that launched this week that y'all have never even heard of. Okay. Blockchains launch all the time, and there's a waiting list, and they, do integrations across all sorts of different blockchains constantly. So, it's never hey, let's get on the phone, let's get the devs straight at the computer and make this happen overnight. It never works that way. It's always a series of meetings, looking back and forth, reviewing the code with their dev team, our dev team, looking for bugs, reading the audit, and then having the engineers figure out how to make it happen, right? And it's never quick.
2 more weeks. You've heard it. You've heard it here first. One more thing I want to cover before we wrap it up. Excellent conversation. Thank you everyone tuning in, by the way, as well. This has been super fun, informative. I think for me and Gary as well. Listen to Jesse talk about a couple of these things, and Gary had some great questions and put some commentary on himself. That's not hold back. I like it. I think these open, transparent conversations is something our community tries to have, not always successfully, and a lot of them happen on Twitter Spaces, which I'm not part of a lot of times. Prefer YouTube for various reasons. However, I'm glad they're happening, and I'm glad we can crowd you guys and get together and talk about it every once in a while. But this is the poll.
Let me promote that for a second. I've been saying it for years. I fall down often and get frustrated, and I have tantrums on the internet too. Like I've had tantrums on YouTube streams in the past. I wish I could take some of those back sometimes. It does help to be out there. It helps. It helps. It helps. BitBoy follows me. I know he's going through his own trauma. Mario follows me. Mind Your Biz follows me. Phygital follows me. Like you can have impact and influence. And even if it just means that they end up direct messaging you and not doing anything public because they're trying to do content creation, right? They're trying to provide their audience information. They're going to use the buzzword of PulseChain, PulseX, Richard Hart, SEC, every opportunity that they can so that they have audience. Like everybody in a bear is looking for content, right? Looking to find out if their own bags are being talked about. And so it's helpful. Like you can be an ambassador, you can be a diplomat, you can get outside of this crypto sphere and do something else in a different financial realm and have impact and influence. Be a builder. You don't have to found the product. You don't have to study Solidity and code, but like have an understanding of the vocabulary, not just inside this realm because you're participating in it, but learn how to communicate with other people. Like 99% of people are not in this ecosystem yet, right? There's I saw numbers not long. I even said something about like how we only talk in English and we are only talking to people that have internet. Like, a lot of people that have a lot of financial and economic energy or influence, they're more like peer-to-peer conversation people. Like go to events, go to meetings, go to things to build your own brand, build your own income that's outside of cryptocurrencies. Learn social calibration. It's useful, man.
Yeah, I think just being a creator in general. That's why, I talk about it. I don't think myself as an influencer. No, to me, I'm a creator. I like creating content. I like having conversations, and I code and stuff too. Just not. I don't have my own token, but I also write code and do other things technical wise and such too. But I think just the biggest thing in the community too, people looking for something to do. plenty of stuff to do, a lot of green pastures still. We're only 4 months in, and just create things, create positive things too. Not, it's easy to create negative things, but positive things are the hard work we need to get done. But our community, we're strong enough to do it. That's what's impressed me so much is we're still here. People keep asking, somebody asked me the other day, what event would need to take place for you to leave the community or to give up or whatever? And I was like, if I look around me and see no one else is here, that's about it. I mean, that's it. HEX is the code. PulseChain is the code. PulseX, all this stuff. We are the code and we are the community. And I think both of them are equally important. How to poll, which one was more important? I was like, literally, I think they're tied for me. Number one, you got to have both. If you don't have both, tough luck. But on this poll, I want to get your all's opinion. I was doing, I think yesterday, I was doing the PulseChain 101 stream. I wanted to get some content out for new people as well. And someone asked me like how to, unsupported asset, all the stuff, Uniswap, gatekeeping, all those things. Where do you gentlemen, when you're getting new HEX, and hey boy, not financial advice in any way, but those T-shares don't seem to be getting much cheaper, or maybe they will, we don't know. But it's one of those times where maybe people are looking to get the cheaper HEX. They believe in both, or maybe they buy whichever HEX they want. But if you're looking for Ethereum HEX, where do you all go to get it? I know there's a few places here. I myself didn't even think about it. Somebody asked me on the stream, and I was like, I was trying to look it up to see where, and I was like, oh, I just get it off PulseX half the time. I just, if I want to stake it, I bridge it over and stake it, that kind of thing. Yeah, where do you all go? How do you do that? Or do you not? Are you PHEX maxis?
Yeah, as far as accumulating new EHEX, you're talking about accumulating EHEX in order to stake and continue out a ladder? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, with the gatekeeping, a lot of people are having trouble figuring out a way other than Uniswap to get it, for example. When you're talking to people, is there a place you recommend or you do yourself? For example, I'm just going to click PulseChain bridge. It seems like a lot of people go PulseX, they bridge the EHEX over. Maybe they use PortalX swapped as the aggregator to get it. Alex has a Uniswap fork as well. CowSwap was a lot placed in the comments.
CowSwap. I know that Matcha recently changed things. Uniswap directly. I haven't used Uniswap directly in quite some time. Well over a year or two, maybe 2 years. Uniswap direct. I was using Matcha for a couple of years. Once CowSwap came out, I pretty much was using CowSwap. I liked its function and its little move sound whenever you executed a trade. I think even on CowSwap, I could do some limits of something. I can't remember. It's good that Alex put up the front end. That's great as far as making it available to actually interact with the smart contracts, because it really just goes to the lists and the hard code, I think, that Uniswap puts on their front end as far as HEX token itself. But yeah, CowSwap and PulseX, or not PulseX. Now you can also do it on. You can go to, I think, Piteas. I use Piteas, Piteas.io, I believe, and also. One of the biggest supporters of the whole ecosystem is HEX Toys, Simon. So Simon has added a DEX function to his DEX HEX Toys. Let me see what it is called. I think it's called HEX Toys DEX dot the HEX Toys. All right. Yeah, so I'll send this link if you want to show it in the private. I'll put it there. But for a while, I would look at the price on Piteas, which I know that had released not that long ago. And so small buys and things I was going through Piteas. But then I also looked at HEX Toys once they launched their DEX. And I don't know, like I speculate over why one aggregator is lower priced than a different aggregator. So I don't want to say, but sometimes I find that HEX Toys is cheaper than Piteas. Definitely those two are, as aggregators, are cheaper than PulseX, the platform itself. But I believe that both still, until this disabling of the buy and burn feature, I think both were doing the same function of buy and burn as far as their overhead cost of the transaction. So I don't really know how they get cheaper prices. Maybe Jesse can say something about that.
Well, I mean, you could just go to PortalX swap.io and it'll just sit there and think for 10 to 20 seconds, and then it'll list out various trade routes, and you can select the one that you like. It's not going to have some of the offshoot ones, like Batias likely isn't in there, unless they're a front end for something else, and then it's using that other thing anyway. Bear in mind, a lot of these, a lot of front ends are really just front ends of other things, and they just shave an extra fee out of them. So just keep that in mind. But Portal, if I was to buy some more HEX, I would just see compare all the rates on PortalX and see what it shows me.
Yeah, I was speculating in my own brain, you know, again, people can bootstrap in different ways. They can say, hey, I understand that I'm selling product at, you know, below my manufacturer cost, below my distribution cost, but I want the consuming public to try my product. So actually some products get sold under production. And I was speculating that some DEXs may do something like that or some aggregators may do something like that. I know that Simon was one of the most successful in the launch of HEX and during the referral program, and he's built successful NFT platforms and things like that in the past. So like I like having his support. I like his product existing. I don't think he's really promoted it a ton. I like that our Portal Swap has done their aggregator as well to show the routing. I like that you can see the path that the trades take. I like that a lot. So yeah, smooth. I've looked at PHUX and I haven't noticed enough liquidity for some of the things I'd like to do myself. Certain especially small liquidity PRC20s and things like that. But yeah, there's a lot of options out there. From what I understand, PortalX routes through everything available, all the known liquidity. Is that how that works?
Correct. So once a new DEX becomes available and it's kind of proven itself, then we, for example, FUX. Okay, FUX is actually a great protocol that for a number of tokens, you do get way better trades than going to PulseX, for example. Just the way it's designed. It's the slippage is just way less. Okay, so it's actually a good thing to aggregate now that it's proven. The code's out there. Cool. It's a balancer fork. So what we do is we take that information back to our partners, and then they work on integrating that. So you can't do that immediately every DEX that pops up every week, but once something kind of proves itself out over a period of time, you start to see those DEXs become trade routes on PortalX.
Yeah, I support, you know, especially when they're front person, whether it's the founder or part of a team that's been, you know, a known name for many years. I think it's helpful. Buck has been out there. You have been out there, you know, Crazy for Crypto and the Liquid Loans people have been out there. I like people that are building that have, you know, created product, you know, after support, especially of the ecosystem as a whole. I think that Hexy Bastard's going to launch his thing before too long. That's another DEX. I think that the Texan people are going to launch something as far as a DEX before long. So, you know, I'm encouraging other DEXs because we understand that helps the oracles be more, which are necessary for your protocols, for like your liquidity forks. I think that you require oracles to be useful.
Yeah. So let me explain kind of how that works. So the whole idea of protecting a DeFi protocol is anti-manipulation. Okay. That's where oracles, decentralized oracles that people can contribute through consensus and so on and so forth into, that's where they come in handy. Now, if the only place that people were grabbing a price feed was one single pool, and maybe that was on PulseX, and it was like a pairing of hex paired to die. Okay, and let's say that pool was thin, and somebody saw an opportunity to go manipulate that price. They would go manipulate that price depending on the DeFi protocol. There could be a potential for flash loans and other things. They could mint themselves a whole ton of something that they're not entitled to, because all they did was wick the price for one block, and they run away with a whole bunch of people's money as they dump all the things they minted. Okay, so when you have tokens spread across a blockchain, and you have liquidity over on Fox, and you have it in 9inch, and you have it on PulseX, and you have it with the Pulse LN guys, you have it here, and you have it there, and you have it 50 different places. Okay, and then if all these price feeds, the contributors to the price feeds, are scraping this data from multiple sources and feeding an average of these prices in, then it becomes infinitely hard, if not impossible, for somebody to manipulate a price and wreck a DeFi protocol, because they would have to go to all these platforms with an infinite amount of money and try and move the price, and they can't.
Good explanation.
So I need to bow out soon. I don't know what your timeline is, but
you're not allowed to, Gary. You need to stay.
Yes.
Just kidding. No, great. Yes, sir. How long? Where do I need to stand? No. I appreciate you coming, both of you. It's a great segue. I was going to wrap up anyways. I think we hit all the stuff. Everyone watching now, if you just tuned in, replay gang. Great conversation with these two. Covered a lot of stuff. OKX, buy and burn, PulseX. We talked about HEX a little bit as well on the Ethereum side. And great show. Gary is asking a ton of great questions. What are you going to take us out on? Let's start from top to bottom, Gary. Final thoughts, closing words. What's good? What's bad? What are you going to take us out on?
Well, I think your tweets, everyone that's watching in the audience, you definitely should be following RHMax. He's got, seems like a great program of a lot of people that are coming up. They're not just telling their backstory. They're kind of giving their opinions about where the ecosystem stands, what next milestones are ahead for different products, not just the chain itself or the DEX itself, right? So I'm happy to see all the things that you've got lined up. That's really cool. I see also in the audience, Dipcatcher just joined in too. So I'm looking forward to some of those conversations. If they're already recorded, I'll be watching the replay. I'm doing traveling right now quite a bit, so I'm not as engaged. I'll get in Twitter sometimes. I'll do a reply, try and be a little bit humorous on occasion, but I'm trying to stay outside of the dramatic environments. Just not very useful to my own brain juice or emotion state. So like if it's positive, if it's joking, if it's making a meme, I support and I like Too Spooky and some of these other people that are making a lot of the different content for their own product stuff. I think it's funny. I think everyone needs a little levity. So I like that. But my next few months to end of year really is bridge making outside of crypto, people that don't deal with crypto, people that, they don't have a positive or a negative view of crypto. They just want to be informed, and they usually have high influence, high wealth. So right now I'm in one country. I go to Kuala Lumpur very soon for Andrew Henderson's Nomad Capitalist event. Audience mostly is 8 to 9 figure people, as far as wealth from entrepreneurism, different types of businesses and so forth. A lot of it looks at their content, looks at second residencies, international banking, insurance industries, things like that. So I want to network inside that environment, and that's where I'm going to next. I'll take a couple of some other whales inside of our ecosystem are going as well. And then because I'm on that side of the planet, I really want to meet these founders that have been making content creators and founders of different products launched on PulseChain in Australia. So I'm going to be going to Australia, Sydney and Melbourne, and I think I'm also going to visit Tasmania. And that's basically going to take up all of September for me. So if somebody knows someone that's high influence, they've got a big audience, or they've got capital, and they're, at least had a mild curiosity about cryptocurrency. I've had the same standing comment that I'll visit them. I'll educate as best I'm able to, or point them to people I think are credible inside of our community to get more information. So anything to help with that would be great, but that's my plan for the basically remainder of the year.
Thankless job, Jerry. It's just going out, doing the work, putting in the effort. Super inspirational too for people out there doing that outbound messaging, just talking to people, especially if you have a network of, high net worth individuals or otherwise. You can become your own, the whale whisperer. I don't know if you like that nickname or not, but I threw it out there just in case. Appreciate all your work, Gary. It's very, very good stuff. Jesse, how about you? How's it going?
Yeah, good. I really enjoy coming on and doing these talks. Things once PulseChain launched and as these builds start rolling out, things tend to get busy at times, and then there's also dead times in there, right? So I haven't been getting out as much as I used to. People do find me in various Telegram rooms here and there. Of course, I put out regular tweets and stuff. But it's good to get on stream. Gary, it was a great talk with you today. And I'd like people to stay hopeful. Okay. Remember why we're here, why we're in PulseChain. It is cheaper, it is faster, and it does have a better community. All right. No matter what little hiccups come along the way, whether that's something that Richard has to deal with the SEC, or that's a little hiccup and an upgrade required in PulseX, or it's just we've got to wait for people to sell because their bags were too big. Always remember, before you click that sell button, what brought you here to begin with, and have those fundamentals actually changed? We're here because we believe we have a great community who's going to make a lot of really good things happen. There's a lot of builders. Richard isn't doing it all by himself, right? I think those days of maximalism have dwindled quite a bit. You want a successful blockchain, you're going to have a community of solid builders, and there's a lot of them out there. So keep that in mind.
Very cool. Everyone, make sure you find these guys on YouTube and on Twitter. Got Funding Gym at Funding Gym for Gary, and at JustAskJesse for Jesse. And Funding Gym also has a channel. Jesse, you can, I guess, point him to the Power City channel. Is that the best one?
Yeah, at Power City IO.
Awesome. All right, gents. Again, appreciate you being here. Excellent conversation as always. Love having you both on. And that's all we got for everyone. Scivive and 5555. We are out.